this top of the airbox off, use a Phillips head screwdriver, loosen this screw up. Take that screw out. Take this screw out. And there's one down here, it's kind of hard to see. Take that screw out. With all those out, grab the box and just slide it right off. Take this snorkel off, we'll disconnect the connector here, just push down on the tab, slide it off. Use a straight blade screwdriver, loosen up on this worm clamp, and slide this off. There's a connector right here. You just push on these two tabs and it slides right off just like that. And just grab this piece, you can slide it up. You can slide the air filter out as well. Disconnect the connector right here. There's a lock tab, just slide that off. Just like that, you just pull it off. And then the lock, just pull up on the lock, disconnect the connector. Just like that. Use a trim tool and just pry the connector off the retainer. Now I'll take a O2 sensor socket. This is a 7/8 or a 22. This way you can slide over the wire. And loosen up the O2 sensor. And slide it out. Disconnect this connector right here. Just slide the lock tab back and then push down on the connector. Slide it off. There's a hose in the back here. Disconnect that hose, just push on the two tabs on the side and you should be able to slide it back. You just squeeze it and the locks come off. Use a 10mm socket, and behind here there's a nut that holds the bracket for the transmission dipstick tube. Take that nut off, just like that, and you can slide that dipstick tube out of the way. Use a 13mm socket and take the two bolts out that hold this valve on. And take the gasket off as well. Use a 10mm socket, take this nut off right here. Slide that off. Follow that AC hose over to here and take this bolt out. Use a 10mm socket. That way this hose is loose. Now slide the bracket off the stud. Just pull it out of the way and just slide it up a little bit. And then you want to take that stud off right there. 10mm socket. That's for the dipstick bracket. Take these nuts off. There's one right here, one over here. There's one in the back, and then there's also one down below. Use a 10mm socket. And just grab the shield, just wiggle it off. Just slide it out of the way. Try to take this hose out of the way a little bit. And slide it off. From underneath the car, we need to take off the nuts that are on the flange right there. Use a 15mm socket. You're probably going to need an extension. Take those off. And the last one. Now take the bolts out that connect the manifold to the head. Use a 13mm socket. And there's the last one. And just grab the manifold, slide it off. Might have to tip it down a little bit in the back. Just try to move this hose out of the way a little bit. And slide it up and out. And pull the gasket off. Just gonna take some brake parts cleaner and a rag and just wipe down where the manifold gasket's gonna go. You can use a scraper or even a razor blade if there's any big material that needs to be removed. Otherwise, just wipe it down. Now we're going to take the gasket, line it up on the back of the manifold. And there's one area where you can put a bolt, and it's going to hold the gasket on. It's going to hold the gasket there for now. And now we'll slide it in position the same way it came out. Be careful, the gasket is pretty sharp. Get that lined up and then get the bolt started. And make sure the gasket lines up and get some more bolts and just start putting all the bolts in, adjusting the manifold so that they line up. We have all the manifold bolts in up top. Before I tighten these down, I just want to get the nuts on the bottom flange below. I'm not going to tighten those down, but I just want to get them started. Push that flange in place. You can use a pry bar or a long screwdriver. Just get that lined up over the studs. We'll hold that there for a second. Take the nuts and use a 14mm socket. And I'll get that started. Just get them started. You don't want to tighten them down. It's just easier to do it now while everything's loose. All right, those are all started. Now I'm going to go back and snug these up using a 12mm socket. I'm just starting from the middle and working my way out. Just makes it easier. And if you have the ability to take a torque wrench and get in there, you want to torque these to 15 foot-pounds. After you do that, you want to go around and check it 2 more times. From under the vehicle, now I'm going to take a 14mm socket and tighten these nuts down. Kind of go evenly first, all the way around. And then tighten them all the way down. Now put the heat shield on. Slide it in position. Then I'm going to put a washer on, and then the nut. Do the same for the others. And tighten those down. Now put this bolt in, or the stud. Get that started. Before I tighten that down, I want to put the other bolt in. This one in the front of the motor. And then this one I can tighten down. Tighten this one down. You put the dipstick bracket over there. Put the nut on. Tighten it down. Take a new gasket, put it on the valve. You can take the studs, get those started. Line that up. Tighten those down. And put the transmission dipstick tube bracket over the stud. Take the nut, put the nut on, and tighten it down. Connect the hose, lock it down, then take the connector, line it up, lock it down, lock the lock down. Take the O2 sensor, start it by hand, tighten this down, and if you can get a torque wrench on there, you want to torque this to 30 foot-pounds. Take the connector, slide it through the bracket right there. Then we can plug the connector in. Lock it down, and then take this lock and just slide it through like that. Now slide the air filter and the snorkel in place. There is a little tab right here that goes into a slot. Slide that down. Slide that over there. Connect this hose down here. Just lock it down. You can slide this connector on up here. And tighten down the worm clamp here. And put the airbox cover on. Slide it in place and put the screws back in. And tighten them all down.